Hi there, welcome back to my channel. In my last video, if you saw that, then you know that I did an unboxing from Beebeecraft, and today I'm going to show you what I did with some of the products that I received. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and that notification bell so you know the next time I upload. Now let's get these DIYs started. To make the first project, we're going to start with this rope that came in the Macrame Kit from Beebeecraft. I took some of the rope and measured it with my ruler. I measured it to the 10-inch mark, folded it over, and then cut it, which I did off camera. Then I measured several pieces and cut them at 8 inches in length. So my longer piece, which you see folded over, was 20 inches, and then I made several of the smaller. To begin making a macrame leaf, you have the longer piece with the bend at the top. You take a shorter piece, fold it in half, and put it underneath. Then you stick a bent part of another 8-inch piece up through, pulling the ends and to make it tight. So then when you do your second one, you're going to stick the 8-inch piece again. It always goes under, but have the loop facing the other side. Take a second piece, fold it over, stick it up through the loop, pull it through, then pull the ends through that loop as well. Then you're pulling 2 sets of ends and having the loops wrap around each other and the center piece. I know this sounds a little complicated as I go to explain it, but if you watch, you can see, and it's really simple once you get started. Then you just continue using all the pieces. You can actually use less than you cut, or you can cut a few more if you think it's not quite long enough. As you go to do it and you see how long it ends up being, you just decide that for yourself for the look you're trying to get. Next, we're going to start at the top on the one side and just start unraveling each of the pieces of the rope. It can be a little bit time consuming, but with this bigger rope, it's really not that hard to do. Now you can wait until you unravel all of it before you start combing it through, but I was kind of anxious to see how it was going to look. So I started combing through the unraveled rope. Next, you want to make sure you don't forget to unravel the 2 pieces of rope that are actually a part of that main piece that comes down the center. Then undo the other side and comb it out as well. You're going to begin to cut this into a leaf shape, and you want to make sure that you have really sharp fabric scissors for this, or some sort of really sharp scissors, because I didn't, as you can see me struggling here, but I luckily had a Wal-Mart pickup scheduled for the next day, and I just added a pair of good shears to it. So now in this next video clip, you see me using the much better scissors, and it was a lot easier. Just trim it down to the size and shape that you want. Take your time with it. You can, after you cut through it one time, take a look at the shape you have, comb it out, trim off any loose pieces. It's a little bit of a process, but this part was actually really fun to do. Next, I'm going to use some of this faux leather cord that I also received from Beebeecraft, and I tied a piece of it onto the loop at the top of my leaf. I cut it to the length that I thought would be good, and got some of these really large beads that came in the Macrame kit and started stringing them. Now that very first bead, you want to make sure you stick the little piece of cord that was hanging down there. You want to stick that up through the first bead, and you can use a little bit of hot glue to secure it in place. Then just keep adding the amount of beads that you want. I think there were 10 that came in this pack. I added 5. Next, you take one of the rings that also came in the Macrame kit and tie that onto the top, attaching it right by that top bead. Once that's tied on securely, we're going to get out some twine, and I just used twine that I had picked up at Dollar Tree. And you wrap the twine around the bead and tie it into a knot. Then the extra piece of both the brown cord and the twine, we're going to lay those flat as we wrap the ring, and that way both those little ends will be wrapped up inside the twine and you won't see them. When I had cut my original piece of twine, I wasn't sure how long to make it, but it doesn't really matter, because if you end up running out before you're finished like I did, you just tie a second piece to it, and then the loose end you just wrap around with the rest of the ring. And when you're finished, you just hot glue it down. So let me know what you think of this project. It's very simple, but I think it really looks nice in my foyer. For this next project, I used some of this off-white cotton yarn from Dollar Tree. You can feel free to use whatever cotton yarn you have on hand. For this one, I made my longer string at 16 inches, and my shorter strings I made about 7 inches long. And this is going to be the same process as we used with the macrame rope. You just lay down your longer piece with the bend at the top. You put one loop from a shorter piece through the other loop, and always pull your ends out. If you are new to this process like I was, then it might be easier for you to follow along as I did the first example of this with the larger rope, because it'll be easier for you to see how I did it. But it is the same technique used with this yarn. So now we just untwist all of the yarn pieces just like we did in the first project, and it's definitely a little bit more challenging with this yarn. It takes a little time to get those tiny little fibers apart, but just take your time with it, and then once you get them all unraveled, you comb them out, and then you're going to cut it into the shape that you want. This was one of my favorite parts of this project, and you just want to trim it down once, get the general shape, and then you can go back at it a few more times to get any pieces that you missed, or maybe to make it a little more even. And then you're all done, and then it's time to make another one just like this. You go through the process the same way, and at this point you're practically a pro at it. You can whip right through it. Then you just want to make sure that you cut it into the size and shape that will match the first one that you created. Now we're going to take some of that brown faux leather cord, and you're going to need some of the unfinished beads that we got also from Beebeecraft. And I had some also, these here were left from a different project I did at another time, and then I used this chocolate color paint, and I stuck some of the beads onto this skewer and put it in this little Dollar Tree tray, and then I started painting them. But what I did is paint one at a time because I didn't want it to be like a thick coat of paint. I wanted to cover the whole thing, but while it was still wet, I took it off and rubbed it with a cloth because I kind of wanted a softer brown look to it. Not quite a stain, it still ends up being a little darker than a stain, but I wanted it to have like sort of faded areas and look a little more worn. Now we're going to use a piece of the brown cord to attach a bead to our leaf. So you string it through the loop at the top of the leaf, then stick both ends through the bead. Then you slide the bead down over onto the top of your leaf. And now you have that all ready to begin. Then we tie a longer piece of the brown cord to the top of the leaf. I ended up doing 24 inches. You tie one end to the top of your leaf and the other end you start stringing your beads in whatever pattern you've decided on. You want to make sure you take that little extra little piece that's hanging off of the cord and stick it up through the first bead, and that kind of takes care of it and makes it so it's tucked away nicely, and you can take a little bit of hot glue to make sure that it stays there. Then you just string the beads in whatever pattern you like. I used a variety of sizes, and some were the unfinished and some had the brown paint that I used to sort of stain it. But I will tell you that I did almost the whole way to the end and decided I didn't like the pattern I had. So I ended up undoing it and did a different pattern that I really, really liked. So this was the original pattern I came up with, but I just didn't like it. So I took them off and played around with it and ended up with a pattern that I love, and I am very happy that I took the time to do that. Now we're just going to tie that cord to the little string from our leaf, the little loop there, tie it around and take the little extra piece, tuck it back up through the last bead and hot glue it just a little to hold it securely in place. And that's it. Now we have our little rustic farmhouse beads that you can add to almost any corner of your home to add a little touch of fall. So I hope you like these DIYs that I shared with you today. As you could see, they were both very simple, and the macrame portion to make the leaves was really easy. And but I think they turn out really cute, and it's like a nice little unique touch for fall. So in the comments, let me know which was your favorite. Also, have you decorated for fall? Do you decorate for fall? I always enjoy hearing about other people's traditions. So yeah, let me know what kind of things you do this time of year. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.